The Pfizer and Moderna vaccines for COVID-19 are the first mRNA vaccines approved for use in people, and naturally, there are many questions about them. In this video, I want to answer some of the questions I hear often regarding RNA vaccine safety. For an overview of how mRNA vaccines work, make sure to check out my video called Understanding mRNA Vaccines. So I first wanted to emphasize that RNA vaccines have a safety advantage over other vaccine types in that they don't contain weakened germs or actual germ pieces, so they're not infectious. But also, it's important to know that mRNA does not stick around for very long in our cells. You can think of mRNA like a Snapchat. It exists for a short time in the cell to send a message, but then it's destroyed. This is a normal process in all of our cells, and there is no concern that the vaccine mRNA will linger in our cells and cause long-term side effects. Many people are concerned that the RNA in the vaccine might change their DNA. It can't and it won't. Besides the fact that the RNA will be destroyed soon after the spike proteins are made, it's important to know that for the entirety of its lifetime in the cell, the mRNA will be in a compartment called the cytoplasm. Our DNA is stored in a part of the cell called the nucleus, and it never leaves. The mRNA from the vaccine will not be able to enter the nucleus, and because our DNA and this mRNA are in two different places and separated by a physical barrier, they will never be close enough for genome incorporation to happen. Some people wonder what else is in the vaccine besides RNA. I will only talk about the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines because they're the only ones currently approved for emergency use by the United States Food and Drug Administration. On the FDA website, you can find emergency authorization documents for each of the vaccines, which contain a lot of information about the individual vaccines and their trials, but also, quite conveniently, an ingredient list. So each vaccine contains 9 ingredients in addition to the RNA, and there are no added preservatives in either of the vaccine vials. In the Pfizer vial, these 4 compounds are all different kinds of fats. These 4 are all salts, and sucrose is sugar. The fats are in the vaccine so that they can combine with the RNA and make it easier for the RNA to get inside of your cells. It's like when you hide snacks under your sweatshirt so you can sneak them into the movie theater. The mRNA from the vaccine just won't likely be allowed into the cell without this fat escort. The salts are all combined to make salt and pH conditions that are similar to those in our cells. And the sucrose is there to stabilize the whole solution through the freezing and thawing process. These vaccines are stored and shipped around the world frozen and will be thawed right before they're injected into people. This necessary temperature change could damage the RNA, but the sugar in the solution prevents that. The Moderna vial looks a lot like the Pfizer vial. We've got 3 of the same fats that are in the Pfizer vial, but the 4th one is different. So Pfizer uses ALC0315, but Moderna uses SM102. Then these 4 compounds make the salt solution, so they just use a different recipe for the salt solution than the Pfizer group did, but they're both there for the same purpose. And lastly, just like the Pfizer vial, we've got sugar. So the ingredient list doesn't really concern me. All those big words with numbers thrown in between shouldn't scare you either. That's just the chemical classification name for these ingredients, but just remember that at the end of the day, we've got sugar, fat, and salt. None of these ingredients are toxic in low doses. Some of them are made naturally in our bodies. Some exist naturally in the foods that we eat. Some are regularly added to foods that we eat or to medications that we take. And many of these ingredients are sitting in your kitchen right now. I know there are many questions that people have about these vaccines and that I just barely skimmed the surface here. I do hope to be able to make more videos soon, but I also hope that for now, this video has quelled some of your concerns about the new mRNA vaccines.